You know, when we think about epic adventures, our minds usually jump to triumphant victories and heroes who just can't lose. But what if the most important heroic moment isn't a victory at all? What if it's actually a complete, total, catastrophic failure? Today we're diving into how the breaking of the Fellowship of the Ring wasn't its end, but the very moment that true heroism was forged from the ashes.
So let me just ask you this simple question. What truly makes a hero? Is it about winning? Is it about being the strongest? Or is it about something deeper? Something that's tested not in the spotlight of glory, but in the dark, in the face of absolute despair.
And this really frames the whole conversation perfectly. See, on one hand, you've got your classical hero, right? Think Hercules, defined by sheer strength, by glorious deeds, by raw power. But Tolkien, he gives us a totally different model. His heroes, like Frodo Baggins, they aren't defined by how hard they can punch. They're defined by their moral courage, their willingness to sacrifice, and the incredible strength they find in friendship. It's a fundamental shift in what it even means to be a hero.
Now, to really understand this new kind of hero, we have to follow them down the path of despair that started this whole quest. Because the mission to destroy the ring, it wasn't the first choice. Heck, it wasn't even the second. It was the absolute last option on the table.
I mean, at the Council of Elrond, they considered every safer alternative they could think of. Could they give it to the mysterious Tom Bombadil for safekeeping? Nah, he'd probably just lose it or forget about it. What about throwing it into the deepest part of the ocean? Nope, it would just find its way back eventually. And the most tempting option of all, could they use the ring's power against Sauron himself? The Council knew that was a trap. The ring would corrupt absolutely anyone who tried.
What's so crucial to get here is that the path they chose was seen as a suicide mission from the very beginning. Erestor, one of Elrond's wise counselors, says it flat out. He calls it the path of despair, basically an act of sheer folly, of madness. This wasn't a plan born from confidence, it was a plan born from desperation.
And who steps up to walk this path of despair? Not a great warrior, not a king, but a hobbit, absolutely filled with self-doubt. Frodo's words here are they're key. He doesn't have a map. He doesn't have a grand strategy. He just has the will to do what must be done. And that, right there, is the foundation of Tolkien's heroism, finding courage when there's absolutely no hope in sight.
So the Fellowship sets out, this united front against the darkness, but almost immediately their path takes them right into the heart of another, much older darkness, the Mines of Moria. And as they go deeper, they start to realize they're being hunted. It starts as a faint, pattering sound of soft, bare feet, echoing somewhere in the pitch black behind them. A presence that feels both pathetic and terrifyingly persistent. Now, how in the world did Gollum get there? This is such a fascinating piece of lore. He wasn't sent by Sauron. He was a fugitive, hiding from literally everyone. He snuck into Moria from the east to escape his pursuers and just got hopelessly lost. By an unbelievable twist of fate, he just made his way to the West Gate, weak and desperate, at the exact moment the Fellowship was walking in. He picked up their trail on day one. It's a perfect example of how fate, something totally outside of any plan, starts steering their journey.
And it's in Moria that the first great blow falls. Gandalf, their leader, their guide, their wisdom, he faces the Balrog and is dragged down into the abyss. This isn't just losing a powerful wizard, it's like losing their compass and their hope all at once. The Fellowship makes it out of the mines, but they are fractured, leaderless, and completely adrift.
Suddenly, leadership falls to Aragorn, and he's struggling, trying to guess what Gandalf would have wanted. He's got the lives of his friends and the fate of the entire world on his shoulders, and now he has to make a choice.
Faced with all this uncertainty, Aragorn actually comes up with a very logical, very strategic plan. He suggests splitting the Fellowship in two. He, Gimli, and Sam would go with Frodo straight into Mordor, the most dangerous path imaginable. The rest, Boromir, Legolas, Merry, and Pippin, would head to the relative safety of Minas Tirith. He's trying to shoulder the hardest burden himself, trying to protect the others.
But this very logical, sensible plan, it never happens. Which just goes to show one of Tolkien's core themes. You can make all the strategic plans you want, but there are bigger forces at play. Fate, free will, and the corrupting whisper of power. The thing that really breaks the Fellowship, it isn't going to be an external enemy. It's going to come from within.
And that, of course, brings us to the tragic story of Boromir of Gondor. His arc is absolutely central to understanding this idea of heroism being born from failure. Boromir is a classic tragic hero. He's a valiant warrior, a patriot who loves his people fiercely.
But those very qualities, his sense of duty, his desperation to save his city, they become his fatal flaw when he's confronted with the ultimate temptation.
You have to listen to his words. He doesn't see the ring as a tool for his own ambition. He sees it as a weapon, a gift that could save Gondor. From his point of view, it is madness not to use the enemy's own power against him. He truly believes he has the strength to wield it for good.
And this is the real tragedy of it all. The ring didn't create evil in Boromir, it just amplified what was already there. It took his love for his people, his fear for their safety, and his pride as a warrior, and it twisted them into something ugly. His downfall didn't come from a desire for evil, but from the very same things that made him a hero in the first place. But in his final moments, after he tries to take the ring, Boromir sacrifices himself to save Merry and Pippin. He confesses his failure, and he finds redemption. And just look at Aragorn's words to him. You have conquered. Boromir failed to resist the ring, yes, but he conquered the evil inside himself. His true victory wasn't in keeping the Fellowship together. It was in finding his honor again, right at the very end.
And so the mission is in absolute tatters. I mean, think about it. Gandalf is gone. Boromir is dead. Merry and Pippin are captured. Frodo and Sam have vanished into thin air. By any normal standard, the quest has failed. Catastrophically.
This contrast just drives home the complete collapse. The plan was a united company of 9. The reality? A scattered handful of survivors, each of them facing impossible odds, completely alone. The Fellowship is well and truly broken.
But, and this is the entire point, the breaking of the Fellowship wasn't the end of the story. It was the catalyst. This massive failure forced each character to find a new kind of courage they didn't know they had. Frodo has to accept the burden alone. Aragorn has to finally embrace his destiny as a leader. And Boromir, even in his failure and death, finds his ultimate victory. Heroism isn't about the plan working out. It's about what you do when the plan falls to pieces.
So, we're left with this final thought. If true heroism is found not in victory, but in the simple choice to keep going when all hope seems lost, well, what does that say about the challenges in our own lives? What's the first step on your path?